Every long-term relationship, I think, whether it's with a partner or, even family, it feels less like a smooth drive and more like navigating this dense and sometimes really frustrating internal map.
Right. And we think we know the rules of engagement. We've all heard of the love languages. We get the basics of attachment theory.
But when the pressure is actually on, we just fall back on this instinctual and sometimes painful default setting.
That default is what we're calling your core style. And that's the architecture we're really diving into today. This isn't just theory either. We're using that fascinating relationship inventory you shared.
Oh, yeah, the one with the A, B, C, or D scenario options.
Exactly. We're using that to understand the blueprint of how you connect. And it's not about putting you in a rigid box. It's more about providing a context that honestly often leads to a lot of self-forgiveness.
I found the part about the guarded style so insightful. These are people who just instinctively need room to breathe when a conflict gets heated. And the material just makes it so clear. Needing that space isn't a character flaw. It's not a sign you don't care.
Not at all. It's a fundamental protective mechanism. It's just built right into their style. And that realization, it can transform behavior you've blamed yourself for.
Yeah.
That feeling of, why can't I just lean into this?
Yeah, you stop blaming and start managing.
Precisely. So our mission today is to unpack these 4 primary styles: the communicator, the giver, the pleaser, and the guarded. And the real test of your style as you went through that self-assessment, it wasn't what you wished you'd do.
It's what your gut reaction is in those high-stakes moments.
Exactly.
Think about that moment when you realize you've, deeply disappointed someone you love. Does your whole system just fire up, demanding this immediate, deep conversation to unpack every single feeling?
Or do you pull back? Do you feel that spike of anxiety that just tells you the safest thing to do is retreat, wait for the storm to pass?
That difference right there, that's what defines your whole internal architecture of affection.
It's the difference between running toward the emotional fire and stepping back to assess the damage from, like, a safe distance. So let's start with those 2 modes of active expression. We have the communicator and the giver.
That's for anyone who scored mostly A's and B's. So let's start with the communicator, the A scorers. These are the verbal navigators.
Right. They love through words, through openness, through just absolute clarity. The health of the relationship for them is basically measured by the depth of their conversations.
And the strength there is it's undeniable. They're like the emotional cartographers of a relationship.
That's a great way to put it. They can map out these complex feelings that other people are just vaguely pointing at. They create that space for dialogue, and they make sure others feel truly heard.
If you're with a communicator, you always know where you stand.
Always. But, and there's always a but, operating at that intense level of emotional depth has a cost. The material points to 2 major pitfalls.
The first is over-explaining, right? They can talk about their own experience so much that the conversation just loses focus.
And second, they tend to expect that same level of verbal skill from their partners, which for most people is just not realistic.
So what's really fascinating is understanding the function of that behavior. For the communicator, talking is how they manage anxiety.
Yes. If they can define the feeling, they feel like they can control the storm. So when the partner goes silent, it's not just quiet time for them. It registers as a really dangerous form of rejection.
It's a signal that the lifeline has been cut.
Exactly. The most important connection is gone.
And that's such a tough dynamic, especially when you compare it to the giver, the B scorers, because they are on a completely different channel.
Completely different. For the giver, love isn't a speech, it's a service.
It's all action, practical care, support. They do way more than they say.
They are the quiet, reliable anchors in a relationship. They're thoughtful. They're practical. Their strength is their immediate utility. They step in to solve a problem without needing to debate all the feelings forced.
Right. If you're upset, the communicator wants to have a 2-hour talk about it.
But the giver is already making you a blanket fort on the couch and handing you soup.
Yeah, exactly. But let's look at the shadow side of that. Because all their energy is pointed outward at supporting others, the giver often completely ignores their own emotional needs.
Or successfully bypasses them, maybe.
Yeah.
They can end up feeling really unnoticed or taken for granted if all that action isn't acknowledged.
And here's the deeper insight from the material. Giving can actually become a defense mechanism.
Oh, absolutely. It's a way to avoid the risks that come with being emotionally vulnerable. It's like, if I'm always busy taking care of your logistics, fixing the sink, running your errands,
then I never have to face the terrifying risk of sitting down and admitting my own fears or asking for emotional support.
Precisely. you successfully avoid it.
So how does a partner deal with that? How do you address it without making the giver feel like you're rejecting their help?
Well, the key, according to the sources, is to separate the act from the motive. You acknowledge the effort, thank you so much for doing that for me, and then you gently pivot to an emotional check-in.
Something like, I know you're helping me by doing X, but I just want to make sure you're doing okay.
Exactly. You're separating their identity as the helper from their identity as your emotional partner.
That makes so much sense. And it brings us really smoothly into the other half of the spectrum, which is all about vulnerability itself, the pleaser and the guarded.
The C&D scorers.
Let's start with the pleaser, the C's. If the communicator wants verbal connection, the pleaser is seeking maximum sensitive emotional closeness. They are constantly reading the room.
They're emotional sponges.
Mm-hmm.
They're so tuned into other people's feelings, which makes them incredibly intuitive and loyal. They build intimacy very, very quickly because they care so fiercely.
They often know what you need before you do. Their internal radar is always on, always scanning.
But that same powerful radar is also what causes their biggest conflict. The pleaser can completely lose themselves trying to constantly earn love.
That fear of abandonment is the engine, isn't it? It drives the whole operation, so they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And that constant need for reassurance from the outside, it puts a huge strain on relationships. During a fight, a pleaser doesn't just disagree, they immediately panic that they've ruined everything.
Oh, 100%. If their partner forgets something, their internal script just instantly goes to, I must have done something wrong, this is my fault.
And that intense loyalty, if it's not checked, leads straight to emotional burnout. It's just not sustainable.
Okay, so now let's flip the script completely and look at the guarded, the D scores. If the pleaser is an open emotional valve.
The guarded is a triple-locked vault. They love quietly, cautiously. They require a lot of time, a lot of earned trust, and a deep sense of safety before they open up even a little bit.
For them, vulnerability feels, well, it feels existentially risky. It's a threat to their self-sufficiency.
Right, and that leads to their main weakness, which is unintentionally shutting people out right when connection is needed most. When a conflict comes up, their instinct is to pull away, not lean in.
And if they miss someone, they don't lean into that feeling. They distract themselves with work or hobbies because the longing itself feels way too vulnerable.
It's exposing. Their clearest need is so simple, though. Give me space to open up slowly. You cannot rush them. You cannot chase them.
But once you earn that trust, their strengths become this incredible source of stability.
A huge source. They are so respectful of boundaries, they're calm, they're independent, and they really value stability, so they rarely create drama. And their love, because it was so hard-won, is incredibly deep and reliable.
So when you connect all four of these, this core truth really comes out. No one style is better.
No, not at all. Each one communicator, giver, pleaser, guarded, it comes with its own beauty and its own baggage. The whole point of this, the power of this knowledge, is simply the awareness of your default setting.
And that awareness is the tool for growth. And you know your tendencies under stress. You know your safety mechanism. So what does this actually mean for you, the listener?
Well, the material offers a few really profound reflection questions. First, what parts of your identified style felt deeply, deeply accurate? Where did you find yourself nodding or maybe even cringing a little bit?
Did you recognize that need to overtalk things? Or that habit of distracting yourself instead of just feeling your feelings?
And second, what are the specific traits from the other styles that you want to actively, grow into?
That's a great question. So if you're a giver who just defaults to action, maybe you need to grow the communicator's skill of just saying what you need.
Or if you're a guarded partner, maybe you need to cultivate just a little sliver of the pleaser's willingness to risk feeling vulnerable for the sake of connection.
And finally, you have to ask yourself, how have your past relationships, the good ones and the painful ones, how have they shaped this specific pattern you rely on today?
Because those past experiences are the architects. They're the ones who built the structure you're living in right now.
We've charted these four internal landscapes. And remember what the material suggested if you felt torn between two styles while you were taking the assessment.
Right, that internal debate you had.
Yeah, that gut feeling of which style you wished you could be, that often reveals your aspirational self. It shows you the direction you need to move in.
Your love style is not a life sentence. It's just a starting point. It's a place to begin a conversation.
So if you, the listener, are a pleaser who is constantly seeking that closeness, that reassurance, Consider what happens when you get into a serious conflict with a guarded partner.
Whose first instinct is to withdraw, to seek space.
Yeah.
Immediately.
That clash, it isn't malice. It's not a sign you're incompatible or that the relationship is doomed.
No, it's just the difficult, beautiful intersection of two completely opposing safety mechanisms colliding.
And understanding that, just that one piece of information changes the entire conversation. It moves the focus from blame, from why are you shutting me out,
To shared problem solving. To, okay, I understand your need for space, but my need is to feel connected. So how do we build a bridge right now that honors both of our core needs?
stay curious about what your heart truly needs next.